I'm the narrator, and this is the story of the shadow man that only appears in mirrors. It was late on moving day when my girlfriend and I finally got the keys to our new apartment. We had been waiting 2 months for them to come, and we were very excited to get in. It was going to be our first place together, and I couldn't wait to start fixing things up. But since it was so late, all we did was bring in some boxers and go to sleep. In the morning, everything seemed fine. It was a little dusty, but that's to be expected when you're moving into an older building like this one. My girlfriend unpacked some stuff while I took out the trash and recycling. Then we went to Jewel Osco, which is kind of like a grocery store, to pick up some essentials like toilet paper and light bulbs. When we came back, we put away our groceries, finished unpacking, and by the end of the day, it felt like a real home. We went out for dinner to celebrate, and then we came back and watched some TV before bed. I went to the bathroom a couple times, brushed my teeth, and stared at the mirror. Every time I looked at it, it looked like me. It wasn't until after my girlfriend went to bed that I noticed something odd about my reflection. I was standing in front of the bathroom sink, brushing my teeth, and when I looked up from the sink, I saw a dark shadow standing right behind me. I turned around, but there was no one there. I stared at the mirror and realized that the only thing there was my toothbrush. I continued brushing my teeth, and when I looked back up, the shadow man was still standing right where I had seen him before. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't help but glance at my reflection every few seconds. And each time I did, he was still there, just standing behind me, looking at me. I even made a joke about it. I said, "Hey, you mind getting out of here? You're kind of freaking me out." I turned around again, but there was still no one behind me. I don't know how else to describe it other than saying that it was a man. He was tall and thin with long arms and legs. And he was always dressed in a suit. I mean, the way he was standing, the way he was perfectly still, it just gave off this illusion that it was a person. I just wish I could have gotten a better look at his face, because he was always standing behind me. I finally went to bed, but I kept glancing at the mirror, even though I told myself that it was dumb to do that. Because if there was someone behind me, I wanted to see them. But when I woke up the next morning, the shadow man was gone. So I shrugged it off and went to make some breakfast. Maybe I had just been tired and imagined it. But a couple days later, it happened again. I was in the kitchen doing the dishes when I caught my reflection in the oven window. It was me, and behind me, not quite as dark as the first time, but it was still there. The shadow man. I dried my hands and walked over to the window to take a closer look, but there was nothing there. I guess I should have known that if I turned around, there wouldn't be anyone there. I mean, how would there be? But I still did it anyway, and sure enough, there was nothing there. I looked back at the oven window, but now it was gone. I didn't think much of it. Maybe it really was just my imagination. But then it started happening again. More often, I would see him in the mirror, but never when I turned around. I even started seeing him in the bedroom mirror. Once I saw him in the mirror at the end of the hallway. And sometimes he didn't tilt his head the same way I did. One time he raised his hand up like he was waving, but I wasn't waving. And another time he was standing really close to me. I mean, like almost touching my shoulder. It was then that I started to realize that every time I saw him, he was a little closer to me than he had been before. And I was starting to get scared. I don't want to imply that I didn't try to rationalize what I was seeing. I mean, I thought maybe it was stress, anxiety, a lack of sleep. But I knew in my heart that this was something more. I mean, I was living in a new place and I hadn't slept well since I moved in. Yeah, sure, but I didn't feel anxious. I didn't feel stressed. If anything, I was happy. So I tried to push the mirror man out of my mind, but I couldn't help but glance at my own reflection whenever I passed by a mirror. And then one night I saw him again in the bathroom. I was brushing my teeth, staring at my reflection when I suddenly realized that he was closer than ever. I mean, I could feel his presence behind me. He was leaning in close, like he was trying to look over my shoulder. I stopped brushing my teeth and stared directly at my reflection, but he didn't seem to acknowledge me. He just stood there silently staring straight ahead. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to turn around and see who or what was behind me, but the other part of me was terrified to do that. What if there was nothing there? What would I say? "Hey, sorry, can you move aside?" It sounded stupid. At that moment, I wished I had someone with me. I mean, if I was telling the truth, I'm sure my girlfriend would have told me to turn around, but I was alone. So I tried to calm myself down, told myself to snap out of it, and I turned off the bathroom light. I opened the door and stepped out, but I continued to stare at the mirror. For a second, I thought I could see him standing in the doorway. But when I looked closely, it was just the light. Later that night, my girlfriend asked me if everything was okay because she had heard me talking to myself. I told her I was just having an argument with someone on the phone. She didn't say anything, but she definitely looked unconvinced. The next day, I found myself constantly checking mirrors. I caught my reflection everywhere I went. In the windows, on the TV, on my laptop screen. And each time I saw him, he was closer than ever. A week after that, I woke up in the middle of the night and my heart was pounding. I could feel the shadow man behind me again. I got out of bed and went to the bathroom. When I looked in the mirror, I saw him, his face inches from mine. I could see his eyes staring directly at me. But when I turned around, there was no one there. I felt tears prickling at my eyes. I was shaking. I was terrified. I needed to tell my girlfriend. So I went back to bed, but I couldn't sleep. I spent the entire night tossing and turning, and at 3 a.m., I woke up again. This time, it was different. I could feel him standing right behind me, and I felt this overwhelming urge to get out of bed and go to the bathroom. So I did. I got out of bed and I ran to the mirror. But before I could look, I heard shuffling coming from the other side of the room. I turned around and I saw my closet door opening. I screamed and backed away as the shadow man stepped out. He was taller than I remembered. He was stronger. His eyes burned a hole through my skull. I don't know how long we stood there staring at each other, but eventually he reached out his hand and motioned for me to come closer. He was beckoning me to come into the closet. And for a split second, I considered doing that, but then I remembered my girlfriend. I didn't want to do anything that might put her in danger, so I just shook my head. The shadow man frowned, then turned back to the closet and disappeared. I closed the door, locked it, and tried to go back to bed. But when I woke up the next morning, the whole thing seemed like a dream. I went to the bathroom to shave, and I saw my reflection in the mirror. And behind me was the shadow man. He looked at me and smiled. After that, I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let him stand behind me anymore. So I went to the hardware store and bought some large pieces of cardboard and some tape. It took me a while to cut the cardboard to size, but eventually I had covered every mirror in the house. I even covered the ones in the windows. I taped over the glass so that no light would shine through. That night, I slept with the cardboard over the mirrors. But at 3 a.m., I woke up again. I heard footsteps coming from the bathroom. I got out of bed and went to investigate. I pulled the cardboard off the mirror to reveal the shadow man standing behind me. He was angry. His eyes burned a hole through my skull. Then he did something I didn't expect. He reached out and ripped the cardboard off the mirror. He stepped out and disappeared. I could feel him standing behind me, but I didn't want to turn around. So I just stood there staring at the uncovered bathroom mirror. And that's when I knew he was gone. I didn't feel his presence anymore. I didn't hear any footsteps. I didn't hear him say a word. When I turned around, of course, there was nothing there. But that was the last time I saw the shadow man. Now, I keep feeling someone standing behind me, even without a mirror.